Welcome for today's discussion. Today we are going to discuss about pox virus. At the end of the discussion, we will be able to elaborate on the morphology, classification of pox virus, enlist the medically important pox viruses, elaborate on the clinical manifestations, prophylaxis and treatment of the pox viruses. So let's begin with the morphology of pox virus. Pox viruses are the largest among all the viruses. The structure is complex. It does not fit either into the icosahedral or the helical symmetry. It is a brick-shaped or ellipsoidal virus. It is an enveloped virus. The envelope is a lipoprotein. It contains two layers or two membranes, the outer membrane and the inner membrane. The outer membrane is covered with ridges. Enclosing the envelope or inside the envelope, a nucleocapsid is present. This nucleocapsid is biconcave or dumbbell shaped. The nucleocapsid consists of a single linear double-stranded DNA. So here on the screen we have a picture of the pox virus. So we have the envelope, then we have the nucleocapsid which is dumbbell shaped, and then inside the nucleocapsid is enclosed the double-stranded DNA of the virus. Next, coming to the classification, pox viruses are grouped into 8 genera. The species which cause human infections fall under 4 genera, which are orthopox virus, parapox virus, molluscopox virus, and yatapox virus. The important members are variola, vaccinia, and molluscum contagiosum. Coming to smallpox, let's see some important milestones of smallpox. The first thing we should know that smallpox is a disease which has been eradicated on 8 March 1980. Eradication was declared by the World Health Organization, by the WHO. The last natural case of variola major was seen in May 1975 in a Bangladeshi woman in Assam, and that of variola major was seen in 1977 in Somalia. And thereafter, in 1980, the eradication of the disease was declared. There are certain reasons why the disease could be eradicated. The reasons are variola was exclusively a human pathogen. There were no animal reservoirs. So it was easy to detect the human, uh, uh, the patients of the disease. Then nextly, the source. Okay, the patients were the only source of infection. There were no carriers, and subclinical infections were not transmitting the disease. So it was easy to identify a patient because of the characteristic lesion also. The disease produced a very characteristic lesion on the skin, and so it was easy to identify these patients. And the spread of the disease was very limited because there were no animal carriers. There was no subclinical subclinical infection which was transmitted, and neither there were human carriers. Nextly, the Global Smallpox Eradication Program was launched in 1967 by the World Health Organization, and many countries from the world very actively participated in the vaccination program. And then a very highly effective vaccine was also available. So all these reasons made it possible to identify the disease, vaccinate the people, and eventually eradicate the disease. So although the disease was eradicated in 1980, there was a small outbreak which was encountered in people who were working in virus laboratory in 1978 in Birmingham. And fearing this, most of the stocks of smallpox were destroyed from most of the laboratories. And as of now, the smallpox virus or the strain of the smallpox virus is maintained with the Center for Disease Control and Prevention in the USA and Center for Research on Virology and Biotechnology in Russia. And one of the other important feature of pox virus is it is a potential agent of bioterrorism. This is because after the eradication of the disease in 1980, the immunization program was discontinued. It was stopped. And so this virus can act as a very potential agent of bioterrorism. Coming to the clinical manifestation of the disease, the virus causes smallpox as we've discussed. The virus enters through the mucous membranes of the upper respiratory tract, and after an incubation period of average of about 12 days, the clinical symptoms are seen in the form of rash and fever. This rash is very typical. It is a deep-seated rash with central pitting, and it is centrifugal in distribution. That means the palms and the soles and the extensor surfaces are predominantly affected. So here we have the picture of the smallpox rash. The rash was disfiguring and scars were left behind. Coming to the laboratory diagnosis, we can collect the specimen as the scrapings from the lesions, and we can stain them and observe for the very specific inclusion bodies called as the Paschen bodies. So here on the screen on the left hand side we have a picture of the inclusion bodies of or the Paschen bodies of the smallpox virus. Then we can directly observe the microscope under the or through the electron microscope. Sorry, we can directly observe the virus through the electron microscope, and we can inoculate the specimen on the cam of a chick embryo. Cam is the chorioallantoic membrane of the chick embryo, and we observe for the characteristic pox on the cam. So here on the right hand side we have a picture of pox of smallpox virus on cam. Next, coming to prophylaxis. So the prophylaxis of smallpox virus has a very huge history, we can say. The prophylaxis or the immunization for smallpox begins or the history of it is documented right from the 15th century in the Chinese people. So it actually started with a technique or procedure called as variolation. In variolation, healthy people were inoculated with the fluid from the pustules or lesions of the smallpox patient. Okay, so this inoculation was done with a sharp object, and the healthy people were scratched. Multiple scratches were done on the skin of the healthy people with this sharp object, which was or which picked up the pustule fluid from the pustule of a patient of smallpox. Then we had the cowpox vaccine. This was a modification of variolation, we can say, and this was practiced or initiated by Edward Jenner. So the history again goes back in the 1700s, 1798 somewhere. So Edward Jenner actually observed that a milkmaid was immune to smallpox. So it was considered, or he thought that cowpox gives immunity against smallpox. And to demonstrate this, he inoculated a small boy, an 8-year-old boy, with the fluid from the pustules of a person or patient suffering from cowpox, and then intentionally and deliberately again infected the small boy with the smallpox virus. And he, as it was expected, he found that the boy was immune to smallpox now. So this was actually a modification of the variolation technique, and then it was practiced in the era of Edward Jenner. Then later on, we had live vaccinia vaccine for immunization. Lastly, coming to the treatment, the disease was treated with antiviral drugs like methicillin and cidofovir, and vaccinia immunoglobulins were also available. With this, we finish with with the variola virus or the smallpox virus. Coming to the next virus, the vaccinia virus from the group of small pox viruses. So this vaccinia virus is antigenically similar, or it cross reacts with the variola virus. It causes lesions which are similar to smallpox, but these are mild. Then it produces Gorneri inclusion bodies. So we can again collect the skin scraping, steam them, and look for the presence of Gorneri bodies. These are also intracytoplasmic inclusion bodies. This virus also produces pox on the CAM, but these pox are larger than the pox which are produced by the smallpox virus. Then this virus is, or both the viruses, vaccinia and variola, differ in the sealing temperature. Sealing temperature is the temperature above which the formation of pox are inhibited on the can. So the variola virus has the sealing temperature of 38 degrees Celsius, and the vaccinia virus has a sealing temperature of 41 degrees Celsius. So with this, we finish with the discussion on the vaccinia virus. Next, coming to the molluscum contagiosum or the molluscum contagiosum virus. This causes something called as an epidermoid cyst. These cysts are also called as water warts. So these are pink pearly wart-like lesions on the skin. These are usually seen in small children, and they may acquire the infection directly or indirectly, like from the barbers or sharing of towels or from the swimming pools. This is a self-limiting disease. The lesions are self-limiting and they disappear in about 3 to 4 months. And there are no systemic complications, but sometimes the lesions may persist for about 3 to 5 years. And in HIV infected patients, the disease is more generalized and severe. Coming to the laboratory diagnosis, we can collect the skin scrapings and again look for intracytoplasmic eosinophilic inclusion bodies, which are called as the molluscum bodies. And we can also observe the virus directly under the electron microscope. We can perform the PCR technique to identify the specific genes of the virus, and this virus is not cultivable. This is a very characteristic feature of this virus. We can say that it is not cultivable. It cannot be propagated in tissue cultures also. Neither they can be grown in eggs or in animals. And coming to the prophylaxis, so a prophylactic vaccine is not available, and rather we can give antiviral drug like cidofovir prophylactically, and As far as treatment is concerned, surgical removal of the lesion or the wart would be a wise option. And with this, we finish with the three common pox viruses: variola, vaccinia, and molluscum contagiosum. Thank you.